Hey everyone, thanks for coming along to another Quality Advocates event. Today we've got Sofia from Apptim giving them really interesting talk on mobile performance testing. Sure to be a really great one. Sofia, I'm really pleased that you could come along today, and if you're ready, it would be great for you to kick us off.
Yes, thank you, Billy, for the introduction and for having me today. I'm really excited that I'm going to be sharing one of the topics that I'm really passionate about with the Quality Advocates community. So should I get started? I share my screen?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, great. So let me do that. Perfect. Okay, well, thanks everyone for joining us. I'll start my timer as well. There. So as I mentioned, this is a topic that I'm really passionate about. I'm going to be talking about how to enhance the mobile user experience through performance testing. So I'm the CEO and co-founder of Optim. Optim is a startup that we created last year to transform the way global mobile teams create quality apps. And then before I start, I want to tell you a little bit about me. So I started my professional career in software testing, specifically in the performance testing field, and my role back then was, focusing on the back end, doing load tests. Maybe we have some performance testers here today. I'm going to cover this briefly in my talk. I am a computer engineer, and besides being the co-founder of Apptim, I'm also an executive director and board member at Abstracta, which is a software testing consulting with more than 11 years in the market. And we have clients all over the world. I actually lived in San Francisco, California. I moved there with a company, and also when I'm not actually working on my startup, I like kite surfing. I'm vegan, so I cook a lot of plant-based, and also I enjoy and I support a lot of projects that promote more participation of women in IT. So hopefully we have some women today joining us as well. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about how mobile performance impacts the user experience. And I'm going to introduce the different types of performance tests that we can do and how they can be implemented in an agile environment. I'm also going to briefly mention some of the problems that we can identify according to different factors that affect the performance. And I'm gonna dig a little bit deeper on how to incorporate client-side performance tests early on. I'm gonna show some tools that you can use, and I'm gonna do a brief demo of one of the first tools that we developed at Apptim, my startup, that helps you capture performance data on the client side. We released this a few months ago, and we're actually looking for feedback from all of you. So I'm going to show you a quick demo at the end, and we'll have some time for Q&A as well. This talk, I consider it like an introduction to the topic. So maybe if some of you have never done any performance tests in the past, I hope you can actually learn something new today, and this would be like a first step towards this new world of performance testing. And if you have already done some performance tests, mainly on the back end, I think this is a good talk for you to get an idea of what are the type of tests and metrics, and how to familiarize yourself with what's happening on the front end as well. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them at the end. Okay, so now yes, let's talk about why mobile performance is relevant today. So the performance of a mobile app is one of the quality factors that is directly related to the user experience. So I'm sure all of you have experienced at least once that an app on your phone is slow. It takes too much time to start. It freezes, stops responding. You have to restart it several times until you just get tired and close it. It's really frustrating, right? But on the other hand, we have, these other apps that since the first day that we install them, they work extremely well, to the point that we are even surprised by how well they perform. So what makes these applications work so well compared to the other ones? the important thing here to take into consideration is that in today's world, digital performance has a huge impact on the success of a business. And we think of us as consumers, we actually expect digital experiences to exceed face-to-face experience. And there are many research and reports released in the past years about this. And this one specifically released 3 years ago, that it shows that 60% of people have deleted an app or abandoned a website after just the first attempt to use it if they face with a performance issue. And up to 80% will eventually delete that app if the problem continues. So this high abandon rate impacts the digital experience that many companies are going. On another report published last year, it showed that 70% of consumers actually claim to be less tolerant to problems using digital services than 2 years ago. So basically, these unforgiving customers can actually destroy a brand. And when they encounter an acceptable digital experience, they first will switch suppliers, but then they will also discourage other users from using your services. So this can be very damaging. But on the other hand, for those companies that actually get it right and they consistently deliver world-class experiences, the opportunity to drive both customer loyalty and grow revenue through the digital services is unlimited. And I think that this new standard for flawless digital experience will be the baseline for all the businesses. And the winners will be those ones that can consistently operate above this level of excellence. So this is very important today to focus on how to improve the user experience of our users through our apps, in this case, mobile apps that I'm going to be talking about. So what are the factors that affect the mobile performance? So the performance of an app is a product of different factors, such as the server, the network, the mobile device, and the programming of the application itself. So as app developers or testers, which I hope we have some joining us today, we can measure the performance of an application under different scenarios, such as high user concurrency, different models of mobile devices, that they can vary in hardware and screen sizes, different types of networks, such as 3G, 4G, Wi-Fi, and more. And the truth is that there are many variables that affect the performance of an application. And a user can have a really bad experience, and the cause can be outside the implementation of the app or the code itself. So we can test each of these factors separately. We can identify problems and we can do optimizations. So I'm going to talk about the different types of performance tests that we can think about. So first, let's talk about the backend. So these are generally the types of tests that one thinks when we talk about performance. There can be different types of load tests. You can stress the system. You have endurance tests, load tests, of course, and others. In general, the goal of this test is to understand the behavior of our application under a certain number of concurrent users and see how the components on the back end behave and how well they can actually manage bigger loads. So what type of problems can we identify with this test? We could, for example, we could identify high response times from the servers. We could find bottlenecks or breaking points, both in the application server and database resources. And we can also identify bad implementations of scaling policies. So it's very common that now we have our service in a cloud provider, and we can configure how our services are going to scale with bigger load, and that's usually something that needs to be calibrated properly, so we don't actually waste a lot of money just having servers running and not using them. So these are the type of problems on the back end that we can identify when we do load testing. So what's the next factor? We have the network, and there are two main characteristics of the network that affect the performance of an app: the latency and the bandwidth. The latency is the time that it takes to send information through the network, and it's usually measured in milliseconds. The one bandwidth, it's a maximum capacity, meaning the amount of data that can be transferred through the network. And it's usually measured in bits per second or multiples. So the lower the latency is and the highest the bandwidth is, the better for the user experience. So the performance of an app can vary if the phone is connected to a 3G or a 4G network. And although this is something that is out of our control, actually, how good is the network that our users are connecting to is not something that we can really control, but we can incorporate in our load test. We can simulate different networks, and we can see how the impact response times from the server side is. And additionally, we can also test the network from the client side. So we could be using real devices, and we can vary the network that each device is connected to. And we can see what's the effect on the actual user experience and the performance on the user side. And then we have the last third factor, which is the client, so the app and the device itself. So why should we think, or why should we test mobile app performance on the client side? So I already mentioned that the app is the app performance is directly related to the user experience. And it is a critical aspect that every mobile app team has to integrate in their test cycle. Particularly when we talk about performance tests on the client side, on the app itself, we will be able to understand how it behaves in the mobile device, how it uses the resources that are shared with other apps running in the same device, and we can identify opportunities of improvement. So just to give you an idea of the challenges when we think about how the user experience is and when testing performance. So here you can see in the past 7 years, all the Android OS versions that have been released, so operating systems of Android that have been released in the past 7 years, and how it actually resulted in a huge fragmentation. So device fragmentation today in Android is huge. It means all the different OSs and also devices, meaning differing in hardware and screen size, that are in the market. So if you see this graph, 7 years ago in 2013, in order to cover 70% of the Android market, we could actually test on 3 different versions of the OS, and we'll be good. We'll be covered. What happened last year? So last year, in order to actually keep that coverage, so again, 70% of the Android market, we want to run our app on at least 70% of the devices that are used today in the market, we will have to test on at least 6 different versions of Android, going all the way from Android 5 to Android Pie 9. And of course, this is becoming a bigger challenge every year because we need to add more tests. We need to test on the old devices and also the new ones and the new versions of Android. So this is why it is important to, when thinking about performance, specifically mobile, have to take into consideration the device and how the app behaves on each different version of the devices. For iOS, it's a little bit easier for the iOS developers because you have less versions of less fragmentation. So we do have different devices, different iPhones and iPads in the market, but it's more common that if most of the users will update to the latest version of iOS. In this case, would be iOS 13 today, and we have around 80% of the market that is already updated there. You still need to test on iOS in different devices, iPhones and iPads, but the huge fragmentation, you can find it on the Android market today. Okay, so now that we know why we should care about client-side performance in mobile, what type of metrics can we measure and what type of problems can we identify when we think about the client-side performance? So I divided this in 4 main groups. So first is the device resource usage. So our apps work on real devices. How are we using the resources of that device? There we can measure things like CPU usage, memory usage, battery usage, the amount of data that's been sent and received from our app, and more. Then we have regarding the rendering and how fast our app draws on the screen, And here we can measure things like rendering times, frames per second, which there's also some industry standards in how fast each frame should load, so we don't create a disruption in the animation of our app. And this is something that we have to take a deeper look as we are developing our app, how that experience is. We have other metrics like, if the render lag, so if the user experiments a lag in some screen drawings, we can actually measure that and identify that from a technical perspective. Then we have all type of errors, exceptions that happen in the app, crashes that could happen because any of the resource usage metrics are just really high and working at their top that could cause our app to crash. In Android specifically, we have ANRs, which is application not responding. And this happens when a user sees a message on the screen with the options to either wait or close the app. And this is due to certain events that may not execute in a specific period of time. So then if there's no response from an input event, such as a keyword or a touch screen from the user after 5 seconds, then the app will just stop responding and sends this message. And then lastly, but not least, we have response times, which we could measure response times of actions or transactions defined in our app. When we measure this from the client side, we need to take into consideration that usually these response times will also include the server response time, database response time, if there's any SQL, network latency, and also the rendering times. So when we are actually trying to optimize that, we need to take into consideration each part that takes, a piece of that response time that the user experiences. And then we have the app startup time, which is the time that it takes for the app to open, the first time a user clicks on it. And it was an industry also standard to say that 3 seconds, it's a max that a user can wait for an app to open. I would say recently it was lowered to 2 seconds. So as developers, we want to make sure that this is a metric that we're always measuring and seeing how it either improves or not degrades over time. So what type of problems can we detect when we test performance on the client side? So as I mentioned, we can detect crashes. So the app stops working, we get a message on the screen, and then we can actually capture the stack trace and understand what was happening and why the exception appeared. We could identify memory leaks. So a memory leak happens when an app doesn't free up the memory properly. So if we're measuring the memory, we will see a graph like this. So the memory usage increases over time until the app runs out of memory and crashes. And this is something that we need to test when the app is running on the device itself. And then we have, of course, if a screen is free, so we can't interact with it. It could be, for example, due to high rendering times. So we can also identify that when we are testing on the client side. Okay, so when should we start testing our performance? And I always answer as soon as possible. I will actually recommend to start testing for the user experience and the performance specifically since the first package version of your app. So once you have your first version ready, you can start actually testing for performance, because you will start understanding how your app behaves. You will familiarize yourself with these metrics and others that I didn't add or didn't show today. You can actually see and install your app on different devices and see how that affects the performance. And also, if you start early, you will be able to see how these metrics change over time. You will be able to detect if there's a change that the developers did in the app, how it affected performance, so you can identify performance regressions. And of course, you're going to prevent new performance issues from reaching your end users. So I'll totally recommend to start as soon as possible. Even if you're doing manual testing, you can actually start gathering this data. So I'm going to show you, introduce some tools, and then I'm going to show you one of our first tools at Apptim that will help you with some of these metrics. So for the backend, the first type of test that I mentioned, probably many of you are familiar with JMeter, which is an open source tool to run load tests. You also have Gatling, that it's becoming very popular, also open source. On top of those tools, there's one tool that I recommend you to check out if you're interested in backend performance testing, which is Taurus. It also allows you to run other types of automated tests like Selenium or even Appium and Optim. So Taurus actually it's an open source framework that stands on top of other open source tools. So it's very easy to run different types of tests from Taurus. And then if you need to scale up your tests, if you need to distribute your load, then you have tools like BlazeMeter that allows you to run JMeter tests from the cloud. Then on the client side, it depends a little bit the type of app that we want to test. So in this presentation, I focus more on the metrics for native apps, the metrics that I mentioned. They're more relevant for native apps, but there are tools for mobile web apps that help you measure things like how fast a web page loads in mobile, how to load JavaScript resources, or what are the best cache policies and more. So these tools will help you with tips optimizations for your web or hybrid clients. I will recommend you to check out Lighthouse from Google, and also APM tools generally also bring some way of capturing this information on the client side if you're testing for web in mobile. And then for the native apps, there are profiling tools like Android Studio or Instruments, which is inside Xcode for iOS. And I think these are of great help when debugging an app and looking for the root cause of performance issues. And last May, we came out of a private beta with one of our first products at Apptim, which we call it Optim Desktop. And it's focusing on capturing performance data on the client side during a manual exploratory test. And also if you have some automated tests, you could use it. We recently have some users playing around with it as well. What we want with Optim Desktop is just to help developers and testers that they don't have enough time or the expertise or the tools available to start testing mobile performance early on. So you can actually avoid any new performance issues reaching out to your users. And we want to make it really, really easy for you to start integrating this as early as possible in your test cycle. So that's what I'm going to show you today in a brief demo. Again, we want to get as much feedback as possible from users at this stage. So after this webinar, if you want to try it, this tool that I'm going to show you today, it's free, so you can go and download it from our website. And we just really want to hear your thoughts. So I'm just going to quickly change here and show you this. Okay, so this is my phone. So I have connected both an iPhone and which is my iPhone, and an Android device to my Mac. And on the left side of my screen, this is Optim Desktop. So this is a desktop app that you can download from our website, and we have one for Windows and one for Mac. Today I'm going to show you the Mac app that actually works both with iOS and Android apps indistinctively. I'm just going to start a test and show you how you can easily start testing for mobile performance with Apptim. So right now, I mentioned I have connected both my iPhone and an Android device. I'm going to choose my iPhone for this demo. I'm going to click on Next. And here I'm going to see all the apps that are installed in my device. I'm going to look for my demo app, which is this one. I'm going to click Next. And now I'm just going to put a name to my test, and I'm going to start with Apptim. And right now what's happening is, so Apptim, that's my device. Apptim will automatically, so it's connecting to my device. It will automatically start the app. And once it's ready, I can start interacting with my app. So today I'm going to show a quick, manual test and what happens after Apptim stops the recording. So right now I can start interacting with my app. Actually, I have it here. I can click. This is like an e-commerce website where I can buy phones, laptops. I'm actually going to click on an iPhone, and I'm going to would add to cart. Anytime during the test, I can come here back to Apptim, and I can actually click on report bug. So what this will make, if I find anything wrong, anything that's not expected, I can also report bugs with Apptim. So this is extra for, you know, not included in the functional test, but I can do it as a tester. I'm just going to put here, create a new bug. I'm just going to put that I can't add 4 items. I'm going to do that. There you can put any steps to reproduce. I'm just going to put step 1. I can attach a video if I want. Optim automatically attach the screenshot when I click on report bug, and I put save, continue, and then I can keep, you know, doing my test. I just added 1 product, click OK. I can view my cart. I can close, and I just keep testing. When I'm done, I just click on end session. And right now what's happening is we're collecting all the information, all the data from the device, the app itself, and Optim will create a report for us. Actually, there's 2 reports. One, which is the whole session report that contains all the performance metrics that I'm going to show you in a minute. And then there is the actual bug report. So for each bug that we report, we will have the specific steps to reproduce it. We have the screenshot, the video if we attach it, and also the performance information. So that will make it easier for, you know, both the tester and the developer to troubleshoot and understand what was happening during the test. If there's any crashes or errors, Optim will also automatically capture that for us. So here you will see that the report is being generated. So as I mentioned, the first is the session report, which we can actually access it locally in our computer. Optim, you know, we made it possible that, you know, if you want to have everything locally, hosted locally, you can open it and see it there. Then you also have the option to publish it to our cloud. If you want to share with other, you know, team members, users, you can actually make it private or public from there, and you have other features in the cloud. And then this is my bug report that I just generated. I'm going to start publishing it while I show you the other reports. So here I'm going to click on the local report, and I'm going to maximize this a bit. So this is the summary page of the Optim report. You can see the 3 main areas that we analyze: user experience, resource issues, and errors. If there's any issues, for us, issues are warnings that are detected that actually automatically detects. So everything we measure, we compare that with industry standards. So in this case, you will see that, you know, there was a high memory usage in our app. You will see the amount, and that it's over this industry limits or thresholds. You can actually see here as well, the CPU was a little bit high. You get a video of the execution of the test that I just did. And then you can actually go, for instance, I can go to the graph on the memory and see exactly what happened during the test, when it peaked, and understand a little bit more, you know, what happened at that time and how the different metrics behave. I also get graph for CPU. I get the threads as well that were running my app. I can see the network, so the database sent and received from the app. And as well the rendering times, in this case, frame per seconds. I can see them drawn here. Optim also provides automatically all the logs from the device. So, you know, if I'm a developer and I found a crash or any issue regarding memory performance, I can come here and download the log. And in this case, there weren't any errors, but you will see them here and the exceptions as well. So I'm going to go back quickly. And here I have also my bug report. I can open it in a browser because I just published it, or from inside Optim, we also provide the chance to report it to Jira bug tracking. So if you're using Jira bug tracking, you can actually come here and click on report to Jira. And right now, actually, it's checking my authentication. I already connected it to my Jira account, and I can choose which project I want to report my issue. It's going to be a bug, and I can put the priority. So I'm going to put medium, and then I'm just going to publish it to Jira directly from Optim. Right now, I'm going to show you quickly how is it seen in Jira. So basically, you'll see it here. I have a new issue in my Jira, so my team can access here. They will see the description of the bug, the app that I tested, the device where it was tested, and also we include a link to the Optim report. So developer comes here and they see the bug, the new ticket and the bug. they can actually access the Optim report and get all the logs, all the performance data, and more. So we just want to make it really easy for anyone in the team, actually, not only the testers and developers, but anyone that just has, computer, a phone, and the app. They can start testing. They just tell Optim to start and end the session, and then they can generate these awesome reports with all the information for the team to analyze and, of course, help you improve your the performance of your app. Okay, so this is what I wanted to show you today. We have other features to compare different versions and other things that, once you start using it, I'm happy to share more. So let's just move back to the presentation and, time for questions that you have, any doubts of, anything that I said that you might be willing to know more. Now I'm happy to answer them. I'm gonna put my chat. Let's see. Okay, so Bill, should I start looking at the questions?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, great. So we have a question from Hamad. Does UX, UI of accessibility also are considered when thinking of your consumer experience of a mobile experience? What steps are taken to ensure this for your clients? So I'm guessing your question is about accessibility. Accessibility, it is a different area. So in my previous company, which was a consulting testing company, we still do accessibility testing. If your question is about if Optim includes those type of tests automatically, no, not yet. But it is something that if you have, a checklist or it's just as well like industry guides, I think we could probably integrate that in our reports as well. My bug battery is about to die. Yes, it's not yet about to die, but I have my Mac here. Can you integrate with third-party connectors such as Jira? I think I should show that. Maybe that question was before. So yeah, right now we automatically integrate with Jira. So the only thing you have to do is to set it up, set up your account and the token from Jira. And then every time you run tests and you report bugs, you can send them to your Jira project. So we support that already, yeah. So Carsten asks, do I need to install something on the phone or add an SDK to the app for Optim? So no, and that's, I think, one of the main questions when we started Optim, thinking how can we make it really easy for anyone to gather this data without the need to change, your app or even your phone. So Optim doesn't use an SDK. Basically, what I just show you, the only thing that you need is you need a phone, you need your device to be connected, through a USB cable, and then the app installed in that device. So I could even grab an app from the App Store, public app, and start testing with Optim. So we just want to make it really easy that you don't need to be, asking other team members to change things in the app to start seeing this data. So then Carson asks as well, any plans to integrate with GitHub issues or GitLab issues in addition to Jira? That's a great question. We are thinking about what's next in terms of integrations. So we have some requests from current customers for Microsoft Azure and other tools. So I'm really happy to hear that you are using GitHub issues. That's probably coming down on the roadmap. We do have a public page when we post, every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we release a new version and what's new on that version. So any user currently gets notified inside the app of our new integrations and new features. And if not, just, follow us on social media or our website when we publish everything. But we will consider adding that down the road as integration if we have enough users interest in that. Great. Any other questions from the audience? Thank you so much, everyone, for your questions. If there's anything that is still missing. I'm actually going to share my contact details. You can check out in general about performance testing, not only client side, but other types of tests that I mentioned briefly. You can go to the Abstracta US blog, where there's a lot of content on performance testing there. Also, our own blog, Optim, which is just creating it. We have 4 or 5 posts today, so you can check it out. And then, of course, you can reach out on Twitter. There's my email. If there's any question or any that comes to mind, I'm happy to answer them.
Brilliant. Well, thanks very much, Sofia. Really, really interesting talk and great to get that demo and learn more about Apptim. Seems like a really relevant and interesting tool for the testing community. So yeah, by all means, thanks again for everyone coming along to Quality Advocates. Thank you once more, Sofia and the team at Apptim, for organising this and spending time with us today. And yeah, hope everyone's staying safe and has a great day ahead.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Bill. Have a great day.
Thanks very much. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.